Yes, Baruch.
I have a question for you before we get started. Can I ask?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, so I don't know if I understood this correctly. I think I heard it yesterday, that it turns out that the muscle of the cup in the lake, which previously we've been using this muscle sort of, I wouldn't say in a negative way, but in a limiting way to explain why the cup in the lake is not really a keli at all.
Correct.
Because the keli, take it out of the lake and there's water in it that you can drink.
Right.
Then it's a keli for the water.
Correct.
However, now, it sounded to me, but maybe I misunderstood, we are using the muscle of the cup in the lake as a muscle for the Beis Hiroshima. And in the lake, this cup it's part of the lake, and yet it's an ice, it's a keli.
Right.
But it's not a keli with a metzius of any kind.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So there's a turnaround. This cup really graduated to a different level. But that's good. My question is, because we're saying that the Eishes Hiroshima actually contain, however that is that they do it, since they're not even a metzius, they contain the full force, the full whatever you call it, of the Ayin safe itself.
Right.
Right? So I'm not sure how I understand that. Maybe the muscle doesn't cover that point. Or maybe it does, and I'm just not clear on that yet.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yes, that's definitely a well taken, correctly taken point, and that question will now help us to focus in, understand what we mean by a keli, and when it is yes a keli, when it is not a keli, and so forth.
So I just have to be patient with this for a while.
No, I'm gonna answer your question.
I
already mentioned it in class, but in answer to the question, it becomes clear. The difference between the cup on the table full with water and the cup in the lake is that on the table, the cup defines the water in its own image, so to speak, in its own function. It reveals in the water a certain aspect that is quite distinct from the water, the free-flowing water in the lake.
Quite distinct from what?
From the free-flowing water in the lake.
Free-flowing water, yeah.
It's the same water, but in the lake it stands for something totally different. You do not jump in the lake to drink.
So when you say to somebody he should go jump in the lake, you don't mean he should take a drink of water.
Right.
Want to listen? Yes, you do.
So the cup in the lake is not functioning as a cup in terms of giving the lake water a different kind, it's a different definition, its own definition. It leaves the lake in its natural definition. And there the cup is a participating participating in the bigger definition of water in the lake. Let's step in to this a little bit more subtly. The lake water is a free flow, and you could say the infinity of water. Maim she'ein lahem soif, it's called. In Halacha, it's also called Maim she'ein lahem soif. How is it possible to place a cup in Maim she'ein lahem soif? Okay, so here is the point that I'd like we should contemplate. That the cup of water that is on the table, although the water then is defined by the cup, but there is a certain aspect in the water that actually remains water as water is, the way the water is in the lake. And that is, in the cup, the water has a certain form. But the water itself does not really assume that form. The cup gives it that form. The water remains formless, exactly as it was in the lake. Not only that, even after you take a sip of water from the cup, we discussed this in class. How is the water absorbed by the person drinking it? You drink it sip by sip, drop by drop, but it ceases to be. It dissipates and becomes a free-flowing water. It doesn't stay in the form of any form, but it's a drop or a cup. It dissipates completely and it flows freely, and that's the only way that it can be absorbed and in the body by the person. In other words, the cup does not fundamentally change the nature of the water. It takes water the way water is in the lake, and then disseminates it in a manner that can be disseminated for drinking. So, and this is the manner in which the cup treats the water when the cup is in the lake. There, the cup fails to define the water in its own image, but it can relate to the water in the water's image. even as when it's out of the lake, it also remains the same water. So this is how we project the concept of there being oisios within the Ayin Sof, and the oisios are containing, the oisios are filled with the Ayin Sof, with the, as Ayin Sof is Ayin Sof. But I was explaining this is the difficulty that we have over here. I was explaining how is this possible? Since the oisios are bali gvul, and how does bli gvul fit? How can you fit bli gvul into gvul? And the answer is that there is not an element of mitzius, which means that the unity, the union between the cup in our mushal, between the cup and the water and the water in the lake, is perfect. It's not via some kind of a process. The water is not being. Normally, how do you put water in a cup? You aim the water onto the cup, because the cup is a separate mitzias. You have to aim the water into it. In the lake, you don't aim the water into it. It stays the way it is, and the cup can accept the water, accept the water as it is, without aiming into it.
What is the absence of aiming indicate?
Yeah, no mitzius. There's no mitzius.
No separation.
Right.
Water doesn't have to adjust itself in any way for the cup.
The cup does not demand to be recognized in order to be filled with water.
Wow. You've been aiming at this bushel the whole time, and you didn't tell us.
What?
I said you've been aiming towards this mushel the whole time, and you didn't tell us. The whole time we're thinking about the cup. Oh, it comes out, and then it's a real thing.
Yep. There are two different states, and both have. But this is the amazing thing, Baruch. Everything in the world is reflective of the way things are in Elokus. You just have to identify it and relate to it.
You just have to have a mashpia who can identify it and relate to it. It is pretty amazing. Are we right? Are we live broadcasting tonight?
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, we are.
Yes, we are.
I don't see anything yet.
Should refresh your browser.
Very fresh. You should know that.
You are the browser.
Put it in a lake.
There we go. Now I got it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm
Hello.
on my phone.
Yeah. We have to add, I'd like to add another notch to this Inyan, that over there is not a Inyan of Mitzius. In order to understand this Inyan, there's not an Inyan Mitzius. We'll step off a little bit and talk about the fish. From our vantage point, it's very difficult to fully understand the impact of this. The fish are in the lake, and they are absorbing water from the lake, and there it is significant, not like the cup that is filled with the water and the cup is, so to speak, unaware of it. The fish are fully aware of this, and they're processing this water, and they are benefiting from it. And they're not requesting that we should identify the water that you're feeding me before you feed it to me, like a human being. Don't throw water at me, right? Present it to me in my way. The fish are not asking for that. As the expression is, fish in water. The fish in water. There's an interesting Indian to be pointed out in this. Fish and water are not just a coincidence that the fish is in the water. The fish were spawned by the water. So that fish and water have a very close relationship. And the fish, as I said, is not demanding that the water recognize them as a separate entity. And they're quite pleased to be part of the lake. So this is the way things were before the Tzimtzum. There were oisius, there was fish. And each fish has its own nature.
Can I Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
You are, go ahead.
So
I'm still on dry land, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask about that because you're saying now that fish is aware that the water is putting itself into him, the water is putting itself into him and sustaining it. Before we spoke about the distinction between...
No, I said the fish is not aware.
Oh, I thought you said he was aware, and he
No.
appreciates it.
The fish is unaware.
Unaware, okay.
Right, and it's not asking that the water should recognize it.
And he doesn't experience the water pushing itself into him and so on. That's
Right.
not
He
going
doesn't
on.
ask that the water should recognize that he's there.
He's like the
Although-
cup, basically.
Excuse me?
He's like the cup.
No, he is much more than the cup. I mean, the cup, from us, is the best marshal we have.
Why is he better than the cup?
Because the cup was not spawned by the water.
It's really like a foreign object in the water.
Right.
The fish is not... What do you mean the fish is spawned by the water? What does that mean exactly?
That there is not a separation between the fish and the water, not only after that they are submerged in the water, but even in their reception. It's almost like saying the fish was conceptualized by the water. What? Oh. There is not an union of mitzius. As a result of that, the kelim can actually contain the Ein Sof element and be a keli. Because there the keli identifies itself from the Ein Sof perspective, not as a finite entity. All right, gentlemen, don't blame me. It's the Rebbe who is taking us there.
Call from Paltiel, Beis.
Okay. Okay, let's try to pursue it further. Okay. Okay, fourth line from the top. It's explained at length elsewhere. That this union of the oisios harishimu, the oisios as they were contained in the Ayin Sof. And these oisios are called oisios harishimu. Rishimu means a trace, which means that these oisios are not erasable. If you take the oil away, the oisios remain. That's what the Shema is. That's what it traces. We'll still revisit this point. But this is like the oasis that were contained in the luchas. Oasis in the luchas were not an add-on onto the luchas, but they were part and parcel of the luchas themselves. The oasis and the luchas were godly oasis in the luchas themselves. And therefore, since that there is not an element of mitzius, but here's the Rebbe bringing it out in words. It's inapplicable to ask the question on this phenomenon of oasis shebein seif. How was it possible that in these oases were contained a full expression of Oirin Soif? It's not an applicable question. It's not a question and answer. The question doesn't exist. Why? Okay, here's where we would come to have a little bit of a glimpse of what the Rebbe is saying. Since that everything is Ein Sof Mamash, everything. The Gvul is also Ein Sof Mamash. Except it is that the Ein Sof Koichoya Asmus has the capability of functioning Bigvul in Gvul. And a few more words. V'hakoyach hagvul. V'hakoyach hagvul. The limiting koyach who Ein Sof Mamosh. The koyach hagvul, the limiting koyach is Ein Sof Mamosh. Is also fully Ein Sof, k'moi koyach habli gvul. Equal with the koyach habli gvul. The koyach habli gvul is Ein Sof, and the koyach hagvul is also Ein Sof. Let's try to focus in on these words. Koyach hagvul is Ein Sof Mamash. What is meant by this? Right. Sorry, I'm not allowed to drink and think about something else. Koyach hagvul is Ein Sof Mamash. Okay, bear with me and let's focus in and try to understand what that means. We take a child in first grade, put a pencil in his hand, and we say, make a line. What is the tendency of the child when he has a pencil in his hand? Anybody observe a child with a pencil in his hand?
Scribble.
It fills the page in no time.
Right.
And we tell him, okay, now you're in class, now it's a different story, now make a line. pencil in an artist's hand. I'm not an artist, but I observe an artist, and I understand what the mentality of an artist. And I have an artist there, he's here. If I overstep the boundaries, he's going to stop me. Pencil in an artist's hand. Is he making lines? Is he making lines?
No.
He's so gentle, he hardly touches the paper. Is he making lines? The picture pops up from his pencil. The lines there, every line is limited. Is a very limited. Not only is it limited in size, it's limited in density, in sharpness. Because with this same pencil, he makes shades, he makes forms, everything. And he's not aiming on any of that. It's the picture that just controls his hand. Correct? So we, in our mundane level, can compare this to driving a bicycle or driving a car. When you drive a car, do you think about turning the steering wheel? You follow the road, right? You don't even realize that you just now turned. Maybe on a 90-degree turn in heavy traffic with people coming across, maybe then you're thinking what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going. That's in fact the difference between an experienced driver and somebody who is first being introduced in driving. He's aware of every turn. He's aware of every turn, every time that he has to stop. Oh, I have to stop. Oh, I have to slow down. But this is not what happens by an experienced driver. He just fits into the contour and into the environment, and he just fits right into it. So every time he brakes, he puts on the brakes. He's not braking. He's not limiting. He is participating in what's going on. This gives us, in our limited fashion, a little bit of an idea what it means that the koyach hagvul is also bli gvul mamash. In Ein Sof, the koyach hagvul is also bli gvul mamash. I think that the illustration of the artist is very apropos, because it's an interesting thing. The artist has a pencil in his hand. I know how to make lines with a pencil, and I cannot produce a piece of art. Because my hand is able to make lines, but my hand doesn't relate to the art. If I look at a piece of art, I'm looking at what kind of lines do you need to make the art. An artist doesn't look at it that way. Yes, sir.
You said once on this issue, you said a beginner or somebody who is attempting to draw, he's relating to the paper and a flat surface. So when an artist draws, he's already into space. He's into it. He is, when he draws, he's not drawing on a flat page. He's drawing. He's relating to.
He's rendering
to
the whole view.
Space.
Yeah. Okay, that's further down. But the important thing is here that this is the point. Where does he get that ability? Where does that control come from? He is controlling his hand and controlling the pencil. But it's not his hand that's controlling the pencil, it's his chush. It's a deep chush that he has in art. That's part of his nefesh. He's also an artist. It's interesting. An artist is a human being. There are people who have a chush in seichel, people who have a chush in midas, people who have all kinds of different. This is a chush, and there, the lines that reproduce the art are completely part a part of the picture, not individual entities. So this is, as I said, this is a very suitable view of how is it possible that something finite should be part and parcel of the infinite, and it should actually contain an infinite quality. Let me reiterate this. The artist sees in the line the whole picture. Doesn't see a line as an individual presence. He only sees the line as part of the picture, and he makes a line. He immediately projects what's around it. Because this line let's go back to the art a little bit. Again, Yitzhak, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong.
You're way ahead of me.
Excuse me?
I said you're way ahead of me.
Am I having? You have this unit here. We do not fully realize when we say, I have this, what it implies. What I'm referring to is the following thing. We repeat this all the time from the Gemara. Odem shein lebayis ein yodem. Odem shein lebayis ein yodem. A human being with all the qualities that a human being possesses, his seichel and midas and his brain and everything. Ein yodem. Because a real presence in the world. Let me step back a second. You don't say that the same thing about an animal. Only about the human being. The reason for that is, okay, it's a little bit different. An animal, its presence is not in the world, its presence is in itself. The human being has a real presence. What's the difference between being a presence in the world and a presence in himself? It's the following. The world should listen to Apostle with their bow, the Haaretz Le'elam Medis. Passing Gehelis. A generation goes and generation comes, but the earth stands forever. This is not a cynical statement. This is not what it is. What is the significance of this statement? That yes, indeed, Doir Hoylech, a generation goes and a generation comes. But where does it go? Where is it coming to? Where is it going? It comes into a place, into the land. Lo'olam stands forever. In other words, this doir, when it comes in onto the earth, it occupies this eternal reality of the Oretz, and it owns it for that duration of time. Even though it is not just a fleeting entity. The human being, he owns the world for the duration of time that he owns it, to fulfill his particular mission, this generation, and then the next generation takes over. But he's part or parcel of this union of the Oretz, the earth that stands forever. Okay, we have this. This is true regarding everything that exists in the world. There is this little toy. This little toy at this moment, while it is here, occupies a little space. This will come and go. But the space that it occupies, this is eternal. This is eternal. This is real. And from that perspective, everything that is in it is also real for the duration of time that it serves this particular place. We said a human being, Odom Shein Beis and Yodom. A cup. This is why we always say, you're drinking. You should drink. You should sit down by a table and drink. A cup that does not have a place on the table is not a real presence. Yeah, you can grab a drink and throw the cup out, but normally a cup that's made that has a so to speak a human being in mind and the respect for a human being. That cup you don't throw out. It has a real presence. And certainly the cup that you're actually drinking from has a place. This is reminiscent of the union that we're discussing all the time, that part of the dignity of a human being is that he has a place where to put down his food, his spoon and his plate and his cup.
Talking about the home?
The home, the table, as a guest also makes them, I mean, the action itself is dignified. Because a human being has a certain reality in the world. We discuss this all the time. Even though
in this muscle of the object.
Just 1 second.
This muscle of the
One
object.
second. So take the water, not that water, and fill it up, and ask my wife to plug it in.
Fill it up with this one?
No, take whatever it is, fill it up. People may want to have some more. Take the plate also, the electric base.
I should just ask her to
Yeah, plug it in, fill it up and plug it in, and when it's finished, it should be. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, in this muscle of the object occupying space and then saying the space is eternal, how does it relate to our discussion here about Koya, Hagvul, and Igvul?
That here is a finite entity that is actually representing something that is beyond the limit, infinite.
It represents the space.
The space, yes, yes. It
The
represents the
object
space.
the object represents the space it occupies.
This is what
Saying
gives
that
it.
you're
gives
talking
it
about
real
the finite
presence.
entity we're talking about is the object on the table.
Yeah, for example, the object on the table does not have a value but for the fact that it is an object that serves a human being. But we can kind of expand that discussion a little bit. But yes, the object itself is occupying a space on the table. What's a space on the table? Space on the table is human space that has a human value. That is really way beyond the table. It's unlimited. Like we say all the time, human beings sit around the table, and that gives the table a different level of dignity. It's not just a table to use to put cups on it. It has a human spirit. We discuss this. I mean, I think we can sense this. So this is what the Rebbe is saying. Before the Tzimtzum, there was not a Metzias, an element of Metzias. Everything was drawn directly from the Ein Sof element. The Koyach HaGvul was drawing from the was Bli Gvul. The Koyach HaGvul was Bli Gvul, like in the case of the artist. His ability to make a line is actually is drawn as a reflection of his ability to make a picture. He doesn't make a line at all. Every line has a so to speak a complete representation of the picture. This is why this line is so thin and so long and so fine, and this line is thicker, and this one is it goes in this way, and this goes in this direction. You with me? I'll see on the notes. All right, let's continue. Okay, so I'm going to just go back to the end of the previous line. That's 4 lines from the top. Ein shayach lishay. Since that the oisius are not a mitzias, the oisius are not a mitzias. This is similar to saying that the artist's line is not a mitzias of a line. Ein shayach lishay. It's inapplicable to ask the question al zeh. On this, how in this oisius there was a gilu b'nisay. They find out oisius. How there was a gilu b'nisay? It's not, but it's not a mitzius. The oisius themselves are flowing. That everything, the oisius themselves are also ein soif mamash. Rak, except if they ain't soif, so how come there is oisius? Mashekoichoi bigvul. The oisius represent the union that the ain't soif is also able to is able to function in a gvul manner. And now mostly it is like artist is able to make a small line. But where is that ability to make the small line come from? Not making a line. It is the ability to make a picture. V'hakoyach hagvul. Okay, this is the conclusion of this whole fantastic phenomenon. The koyach hagvul, the koyach that functions in a gvul manner, like the oisius, who ein soif mamash, is ein soif not figuratively but mamash really, literally. K'moi koyach habli gvul, equal the koyach habli gvul, the koyach that. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Just on the table?
Yeah, please. Take this. Take this over there.
Just go on the table?
Yeah, put it on. The koyach hagvul is bli gvul mamash k'moi koyach habli gvul. And our moshel, which is a God-given thing, mamash, I don't know how I thought of it, is the pshat that in order to learn to make the line, he has to perceive the picture. It's like the koyach. It's part of it. It's the same. It's the same infinity as the koyach habli gvul. Same talent. So and yet it is koyach hagvul. It is very. It is the koyach. It is the oisius. The oisius by means of which the whole picture is presented. Is represented. And the more I think of it, the more I see that how exposing this is, how revealing this union is. The artist perceives the picture in his mind before he renders it on paper. And every line that he renders is drawn from the entire picture. This is similar to Bina drawing from Chochmah. This is why Chochmah and Bina are referred to as one unit. That's Rei and Lo Mispashin, two friends that never separate.
And in the marshal of the artist, what's the Bligavul and what's the Koyach HaGvul? What's the Bligavul?
The Bligavul
is fine.
The Bligavul is his perception of the picture.
The entire picture.
The entire picture. And the Gvul is how to render this picture in lines.
That's the Koyach HaGvul.
That's the Koyach HaGvul. And this Koyach HaGvul is Bli Gvul mamash, like the Koyach HaBli Gvul. Like I said, started saying that we always know that Chochmah and Bina go together. And Bina is, so to speak, getting the same awe, the same respect as Chochmah, but they're not comparable at all. Chochmah is Mamish Blikvul. Chochmah is life itself. Chochmah is connected to Emunah, to Nasokot, to Bina is already bringing down on the human level. But the ability to perceive this limited concept as it is represented in Bina is its ability to perceive it within the Chochmah. And this is why it is of such tremendous quality. This is why I'm always repeating. If we see Bina without the spirit of Chochmah, this is blind sight. This is not real. This is how the world perceives the secular world, perceive the whole development of this of the world. All the creatures and all that, all on an extremely finite basis. I don't have to tell you, for me, I'm trying to dismantle this all the time, to show how idiotic this is. All he wants is to survive in his finite, limited fashion. And this is why he builds cars, not because cars, if you follow me, not because cars give him access to the whole big world that is really his perception, but because cars will give him security in his little hole where he is now, in his real little rat hole. This is his protection against attack. Which is idiotic. Everything that the human beings developed, cars, airplanes, whatever it is, even bicycles, is all because of his broader perception, of his greater, his stronger perception. So the koyach ha-gvul is bli gvul, like the koyach ha-bli gvul itself also. That's what he's saying.
From the neshama aspect, the neshama.
Yeah, the neshama, the human aspect. The same is true. I mean, talking about artists, the same is true is about music. Nobody produces a note. They produce a song. And if you don't produce a song, you produce an impact. a message. And this message is translated in oisius of song, and then it's translated in notes, and then it is rendered and it becomes a whole symphony. But the symphony is not, does not consist of notes and instruments. The symphony is producing a tremendous sense of what this sound represents. Two little stories. There was a piece of tremendous art being demonstrated in someplace in a palace or something like that. That's I remember. And everybody was standing and admiring it. Leave the outside door open and the inside door closed.
Yeah.
No, don't lock it.
No, don't like that.
That's right. But close the inside door. And everyone is standing and dry, admiring this tremendous picture. And it was a picture of some kind of a natural view. And a farmer passes by who lives with nature, and he looks and gives it a glance at it, and he says, it's wrong. So all the experts say, who are you to criticize such a piece of work? I don't know, it's wrong. It irks me. What's wrong with it? So he says, don't you see that little bird standing on that little branch? When a bird stands on a branch, the branch has to bend. And if it doesn't bend, then it's a lie. Then it doesn't. Then it's not real. It's not true. And falsifies the whole view. That little branch that didn't bend ruins the whole picture. Why? It's still a beautiful piece of art. It ruins the whole picture. Because in a picture, if it's a living picture, the whole thing has to live. And if one part of it is not living, then it drains the life out of everything else. That's a piece of art. Yes, it's a very, wow, look at these, how it produced the bird, how it produces the human being. It's all very, very demanding. It requires a lot of a lot of concentration. But that's not what the art is about. It's not showing off your capability. It's bringing up a living view. And if it's not a living view, it's nothing. That's one little story. And the other story is with the Rebbe Rashab. The story with Rebbe Rashab, he traveled quite extensively in Western Europe together with Friedrich and Rebbe. And they were, I think, in Vienna, not mistaken. And they were in a hotel. And across the street from the hotel, there was an orchestra performing. And the Rebbe sat down and listened to the performance.
I'm sorry, I missed the last few words.
The Rebbe was sitting and listening to the performance of the orchestra. And after the performance was finished, the Rebbe told his son, the Friedrich Rebbe, to go and meet the conductor and tell him that in a certain phrase in the rendition, he missed an eighth of a note.
An eighth of what?
Of a note. He missed an eighth of a note. That's the way I remember the story. So the Rebbe went and he told him, and he found the conductor, and he told him that the conductor was mamish beside himself. And he came up to meet the Rebbe. And then he gave him free tickets to his other performances. And I understand that the Rebbe went and he attended. How did the Rebbe notice this eighth of a note? The Rebbe didn't even know the music. He took the living aspect of it. And if it's missing an eighth of a note, it cannot live. Like we said the other day, life, if you have an interruption, it's interrupted. It doesn't pick up on the other side. It's interrupted, it's interrupted. So you have a whole structure. You put pieces together, but there is not one unit, one entity. It's not living. This is the meaning of the koyach hagvul being bli gvul mamash. In our world, this is a moshel for this evening. This is it for this evening.
Fair, Paltiel. Good enough.
Good enough,